When you're an artist and you're drawing while taking notes, it's called a process. In this process, in thinking about what I'd like to present to you tonight, I started drawing. My default is to draw animals. So in that case, I need to make some disclosures here, okay? No animals were harmed in the putting together of this presentation. Note that animals like alligators and rabbits will only play together nicely in such situations like peaceable kingdom. Do not attempt such an interaction in real life. If you see yourself represented as a type of character, and you don't like that type of character, my apologies to your sensitivity in advance. I want to congratulate the inductees. You're being honored tonight for the characteristics that define the National Honor Society. Our question to consider, at least for a moment, is what would it look like if NHS had wheels? What would it look like if NHS had the capability of going places and doing things? Isn't that the point? Many have invested in you, and we certainly are proud of your achievements, the demonstrations of your leadership, the character, scholarship, and service. I'm going to take a moment and read a passage. And it's a familiar passage because we probably heard it in the last couple of weeks. This is from Matthew 26. When they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. Then Jesus told them, "This very night you will all fall away on account of me. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I have risen, I will go ahead of you into Galilee." Peter replied, "Even if all fall away on account of you, I never will." "Truly I tell you," Jesus answered, "this very night, before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. But Peter declared, "Even if I have to die with you, I will never disown you." And all the other disciples said the same. When Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." Going a little further, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will." Then he returned to the disciples and found them sleeping. "Could you men keep watch with me for just an hour?" he asked Peter. "Watch and pray, so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." He went away a second time and prayed, "My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done." When he came back, he found again them sleeping, because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away once more and prayed the 3rd time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour has come. The Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer." I want to think about NHS. I want to think about the characteristics. And the question would be, we're going to first consider, there we are, consider leadership. How do you put leadership on wheels? Here's a quote from Proverbs 29. "Where there is no vision, the people perish." Another quote, "To command is to serve, nothing more and nothing less." Andre Malraux. I have a friend of ours has a boy with Down syndrome, and his name is Henry. Henry makes a brave face when he gets nervous. It's kind of like that. And when I was thinking about leadership, I was thinking about a brave face that I saw today. Nate Huber and Janae knock came to me, and they were under the burden of leadership. There are a lot of responsibilities coming up this week, and they had to put on their brave face. They do it often, and they do it with humility as they sponsor their senior class. When I think about leadership, I think about sometimes pulling others up to make the paths others will follow, having the courage to reach out, sometimes taking the blame. It can also be thought of as a leadership of steering a momentum that can't be stopped. I think of sometimes redirecting folks that are negative or having a vision for the next step. When I think about putting leadership on wheels, I'd like to present to you certain questions. What are the quiet ways you encourage others to do the right thing? What can I do now to change a certain direction? How can I enable those around me to do their best? How do you put character on wheels? Another quote. This one from the famous Calvin and Hobbes. Okay, the comic strip written in 1990, Calvin puts on his father's glasses and combs his hair to look like his dad and says, "Calvin, go do something you hate. Being miserable builds character." We're going to go to the other side of the kingdom and think about Margaret Thatcher. Watch your thoughts, for they will become actions. Watch your actions, for they will become habits. Watch your habits, for they will forge your character. Watch your character, for it will make your destiny. I think about a family that's close to us, and in that house there are a whole bunch of Christianese kind of quotes. Maybe you know what I'm talking about. And we visit there often, and sometimes I'm a little snobby about it, but one that sticks out, because it's right when you walk down their steps, it says, "Being nice matters." But really, being nice does matter. If we think about character, it's a slow buildup of a person, and then eventually that turns into a good reputation. And really, who can benefit from that? In the last couple of years, I was approached by a student who was having trouble, or they were in trouble. And their character wasn't all that strong. However, their case seemed to have some strength to it. So I said to that student, "Let me go with you. Let me help you present the case." Now, the student never took me up on that offer. But I thought, what is my position here? What can I offer to this student? So think about that. Some other questions. Will you stand up for those that are weak or needy? How can I help in situations that call for one who is trustworthy, that call for one who is loving, one who is patient, or one who has self-control? And can my character point toward Christ? How do you put scholarship on wheels? A good head and a good heart are always a formidable combination. When you add that to a literate tongue or pen, then you have something special. That's by Nelson Mandela. When I think about scholarship, I think that for me, everything is uphill. It takes me a lot to sit down and study. It takes me a lot to sit down and have focus. Maybe it's personality. I've been hoping that will get well over time, but it's still there. But I really also think about how doing scholarship or excelling in scholarship really allows you to see other horizons, allows you to explore this creation that God has given to us. I'm a bit of a science fiction junkie, and I've mentioned that before. One thing I like to watch is TED Talks. Are you familiar with TED Talks? TED Talks are this sort of short 10-minute talk that someone will come up and present a solution or an invention and try and sort of create an appeal for it. One thing I've noticed about TED Talks is more and more these brilliant people spend hours and hours and effort to make something or to solve a problem. And instead of worrying about whether they are going to gain the credibility to it, they'll post it online and invite others to try it out or to add to it. Either way, the idea is that solutions are being solved with everybody instead of just yourself. And I think the idea of scholarship that way is very intriguing. Here's some questions. What steps will you take, little by little, to continue your way up? As I said, scholarship seems to be an uphill. What new horizons will be seen? What will be done with the knowledge gained? And what do you have that knowledge for anyway? Service. How do you put service on wheels? Service in my notes here is very sort of short. And I thought for a while, man, I really need to fill that out. But I really think of the idea of service as small. And I found a small quote from Robert Frost. Pressed into service means pressed out of shape. Christ reminds us that we can put our burdens on him. And when I think about the illustration, I also have a blank here. It's kind of like the unknown soldier. When you think about service, and you think about the people around you who serve, although I'm sure there are many examples, they're all little things. For example, even tonight, when I peeked in before the show, everything was set up. When I think about people who have taken a moment to make the copies that you're holding in your hand, when I think about Mr. Askey, who 5 minutes before we started, I said, hey, you know what? I have a presentation I'm giving too. So let's just take a moment and think about who served you today? Who has done those little things to make your life a little bit easier, to make your life tolerable sometimes? And I think I only have one question for you regarding service. Why not me? Why shouldn't I pick that piece of trash up? Or why isn't it me who's taking that table down? I think that's really when it comes down to when you think about service. Many people think somebody else will take care of this. But service really is about you taking that initiative and doing for others. To conclude, the idea is that you're bringing all these characteristics together. How will you, inductees, put wheels on leadership, character, scholarship, and service? There is no other place to look than where the rubber meets the road. Consider Matthew 26 again. The account really describes a flat tire moment for the disciples, if you think about it. The air was out of them, so to speak. Where was scholarship? It failed, even though they were with a teacher who taught in the temple as a young kid. This is where leadership failed. There were three leaders in the disciples who were pulled to be with Jesus at his time of need. Service failed. They did not help a friend. Their character failed. They fell asleep and they did not persevere. And I won't judge them. Over and again, I've looked at this passage through the years, and I've read it over and again, and I look at it and I understand that I'm in that garden too, as much as I'm in the Garden of Eden with Adam. Okay? I will fall short. In fact, this is all of us. We are capable of falling short when we are most needed. But in that passage, Christ died for us. He actually did it. Here, as he leads into the next step, facing his accuser, then he returned to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour has come, and the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer." He had a brave face. So, inductees, be encouraged. Our Savior died and raised in order to enable you to have faith, perseverance, to be merciful, to continue to do your best. Put National Honor Society on wheels and take it somewhere. But first visit the cross. Then consider your neighbors. Maybe take it to sporting events, class trips, and at home. Remember to put National Honor Society on wheels. Thank you.